Hello,
Welcome to Young Meets Old.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Jeff, and we're going to do a new intro with Dan playing piano. Groovy. Yep. And he might sing. Yeah. And if you want to hear more of Dan playing piano, go to his piano site, Between the Keys, or fly to Thailand, spend a couple $1,000 and go see him play at Camilla's on Wednesday night.
I no longer play at Camilla's.
Sorry, don't do that. Whatever I just said, don't do that, because he's moving on to brighter and bigger things. But music is a big part of our life here, I would say, especially
It's
your
huge.
life. You're a musician.
Yeah, I am a
You should speak
musician.
more about what an important part of life music is to you and in Thailand.
Well, it is a big part of my life. It always has been. I did a degree in music and then I performed for years in a wedding band, as we've previously said on episode 1. If you haven't seen episode 1, you can go back
That's
and watch
a
it.
callback. We call that.
That's called a callback in the comedy world. And now I've been playing in a jazz band for 9 months or 10 months or something at Camilla's every Wednesday, which is a kind of a sort of upmarket outdoor bar in the center of Chiang Mai. It's quite a nice one. But recently I left that band, and now I'm moving on.
Oh, it's news to me. I didn't realize.
You didn't know, but now you do. This is part of the podcast. You'll learn things about me. And what's new with you? I haven't seen you in a while.
Absolutely nothing.
Oh, well, that's part of being retired. I mean, it must be amazing.
That's right.
To have that constant kind of lifestyle where nothing really changes. Is that nice? Do you long for more adventure in your life, or are you quite...
No, I have enough adventure because it's not that I do only boring things. It's that I do the same exciting things over and over. I've been working on my 60-second spots, so you'll be seeing some things pop in and out of the video if you're watching the video.
You're going to edit this after?
Well, I just we'll put some links and we'll put maybe some of your music clips, or we'll when
my goodness,
when we're running out of things to talk about, we can put some of your music in there. So it's going to be multi-sensory, multimedia,
ASMR.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, but yes, let's call it that.
ASMR is those videos where people go right up to the mic and they talk very quietly. It's supposed to make the hairs on your neck stand up. I am talking to you now from another dimension. And they also rattle things, and they might eat one of these Thai longan fruits. We're going to come to these later when we talk about fruits, but they might except this isn't making any sound. These are actually quite hard to open. But what else do I have? I have some bubble wrap.
And the purpose of ASMR is
to relax you. People use it before they go to sleep.
Gotcha.
People use it when they want to meditate, I think. I haven't actually I've seen what ASMR is, but I've never actually consumed any ASMR media for that purpose.
I see.
But maybe it does work. My dad said it works for him.
So there's a lot of things out there, ambient sounds, waterfalls, fireplaces, and musical things that people are using as tools to help them in their daily life. These podcasts are probably putting people to sleep that we don't even know about.
Well, you never know if we are putting people to sleep, but that's probably a benefit.
Because no one's liking and clicking and forwarding and
There's
all
too
the
much
things,
clicking these
all
days.
the things that they're supposed to be doing. But that's all right. We're building
Here's
momentum.
Another ASMR. This is a plastic bag. Well, I shouldn't have said what it is.
Except we could see it, but maybe only people are listening.
Okay.
I hope there's no other sounds that are made that we can't identify, but it's possible. So we have a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah, we've got a whole podcast to do.
Yeah, we better cover a lot of ground. Speaking of covering ground, I thought an interesting topic about Thailand for people who are considering coming, and it's obviously a very popular destination. I think it's third or fourth in the list of places that people go on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
We should talk about how to get here from various places. We spoke briefly about coming from America, and I'll talk a little bit more about that because there's two routes you can take. You can go through the Middle East, which is the shortest way to go from the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
If you're on the West Coast, you're probably going to go through an Asian hub like Tokyo or Singapore or Korea,
right?
Depending on the carrier, or certainly China. But the problem with coming from America is it's going to take you almost 24 hours to get here. It's going to be several stops and layovers, and so you want to prepare yourself for that. And so there's certain hacks you can do.
I see. So you're going to give people tips and tricks on how best to come to Thailand from the States.
I thought I would spend a couple minutes on that, and then
no, that sounds terrible.
I'd like to.
I didn't approve this
because there are some hacks about traveling. Like, for example, a lot of people who reserve international flights, they don't change their seats or they don't do things to optimize the seat that they might have.
Okay.
Because that's a big deal if you're traveling coach. If you're going business class, it doesn't matter.
It's a big deal if you're tall like me.
It's even a bigger deal if you're tall or wide. Some of our listeners might be wide. Most of
wide.
Our listeners are not going business class. So I'll speak to the economy class, and it's very important.
It's very easy to gain weight.
40, especially eating longan, one of the
delicious,
most sugar-laden fruits.
Thank you for these longan fruits. They're like large grapes.
So you should continue to look at the seating chart up until the last minute, and you should try to maximize the chance that you're going to have an empty seat next to you. That's what you're looking for.
Right.
You're looking for an empty seat next to you.
In case some wide person.
So what I do, the other thing,
doesn't bother me if
a lot of people are going to be traveling as a couple. So they need two seats. So they want either an empty seat in between them or two empty seats in between them.
Wow, but then they can't hold hands.
They can. They would just have that empty seat.
Depends how long your arms are.
It's much more important to stretch out and try to sleep than it is to hold hands on an 18-hour flight.
Okay.
So very quickly, I just want to say if you're a couple, and most people probably are going to be a couple traveling to Thailand, if it's a 3-seat configuration, book the window seat and the aisle seat and have an empty seat in between you. And that doesn't mean you can't sit together. It just means that the travel agents are going to be less likely to choose that middle seat.
Yes.
If you're in a 4-seat configuration in the middle of the plane where there's 4 seats in a row, you want to book the aisle seat on both ends.
You never want to get the aisle seat because then when they push the trolley down, if you're tall like me and your leg sticks out, they'll bash into your knee. It's happened so many times.
Okay, so that's a tip. What are some other tips for being tall? Where do you want to sit on the plane? You want to sit at the back of the plane?
It's different because I'm young. You're old.
Yes.
Welcome back to the podcast. So basically, I have a mum who everyone has a mum. But mine works for British. Yeah, well, I guess true. Mine works for British Airways. These longhand fruits, so good. And my mum works for British Airways. And so if you have a family member who's a flight attendant, we call them an air hostess in England, they can get you cheaper flights. And so I'll basically go wherever they put me. I'll go with the chickens in the back if I need to. I'll go in cargo. There is a chance when I get these J tickets that my mum can buy for me, which are very, very cheap. I can go from Singapore or Hong Kong all the way to London for £100.
Incredible.
In fact, I think it's like 80 or 85. You only pay the tax, so it's less than half the price.
Yeah, it's significant.
It's like a third of the price. I think it was like 200 one way, and I got it for like 80. So, and I've done it more than once. So if you've got a parent or a family member who is a flight attendant, you can save a ton of money. But then the downside of that is that I might get put in one of those flight seats where what the air hostesses use and I was in one. It was horrendous. I was in it for like 10 hours. You know, they're working, so they're making cups of tea and coffee. There's loads of noise. There was light. There wasn't dark. You know, and I couldn't even draw the curtain properly. And because I'm tall, I couldn't put my legs.
Can't be comfortable.
I wasn't comfortable. I couldn't sleep, and it was an overnight flight.
The seats are bad enough as it is.
It was horrendous, but it can also be bumped up to, economy plus or whatever they call it, one above economy.
You could get a business class.
I've been in business class.
Gotten business class.
I've been in business class, so it's a real double-edged fork. or whatever that phrase is.
Well, it's not that, but
It's a two-pronged sword.
But most of us are going to be paying for a ticket, or they're going to be using award miles. So back to choosing your seat.
Sorry.
No, that was
valuable
added content.
No, I'm sorry. I interrupted you.
That was color. No, I asked you.
No, I asked you.
Please. So the other thing that you might even consider during peak travel periods, because it is very important to be comfortable on a 14 or a 15-hour flight, especially when you're going to be traveling for 24 or more hours. If you're a couple traveling, you might even consider, and possibly even as a single traveler, instead of paying the 4 or 5 or sometimes 10 times more to fly in business class, you could, certain airlines will let you buy a seat and keep it empty. Right. So that you do have that extra seat. So again, 2 people traveling, let's say the airfare is $1,250, so that's $2,500. In business class, that would be $10,000. But to buy another $1,250 for only $3,750, you would get the comfort of having that extra seat. And that is, it's huge for like a 13, 14, 15-hour flight.
Good advice. If your girlfriend is small enough, you can put her in the overhead compartment. You could also share one seat and put her on your head. No. But where would you say that people should stay on the journey? Where should they stop? We've done seats. Okay. Now let's do locations. Where should they stop?
So in America, again, East Coast versus West Coast. East Coast, you have the option of going through the Middle East, or at least it can be shorter to go through the Middle East. Emirates, Dubai would be a good one. Qatar, you go through Doha. And the other thing that people don't think about when they take these super long flights, perhaps you're going to Australia, is take a super long flight. Instead of taking the shortest flight, take one that's 2 or 3 times as long and might have a 12-hour plus layover in one of those cities, and use that to either go visit the city. In Dubai, they do that quite frequently. In Doha, in other cities in the Middle East, you can do that.
Have you been to any of those places?
Dubai, I've laid over several times, and at one point, Emirates offered you a free 5-star hotel to lay over for layovers of 10 or more hours.
That's nice.
Yeah. So Dubai is well worth visiting. It's very nice. I haven't been to Doha, but there are other destinations. Or go through Europe and take a super long flight,
which you did recently.
We did. We stopped and stayed. Munich, on the way back. We stayed.
You went to Munich and you went to Rome.
Yes,
and you went to Venice.
But the trip to Italy was an actual vacation. But coming through, for example, you might fly from JFK to Munich to Bangkok. You could lay over in Munich. You could have a 12 or 14 hours, enough time to get into the city by train, rest up, so you're not combining 2 long flights. So that's one of those other.
That is good, solid advice for traveling to Thailand for the first time from America.
Or even places like Thailand. If you're going to Bali, you're going to Australia, New Zealand. Look for opportunities to break that trip up, if you can. And sometimes you don't have to pay any extra for the flight. You just, instead of, everybody naturally thinks, I'm going to take the shortest flight possible. But actually, in some cases, you take the longest flight, you have a long layover, you recoup, you recharge your batteries. Yeah.
Good advice.
And you might see a city you've never seen before.
Okay. And you recommend seeing Dubai?
I do. I think Dubai is definitely worth seeing, as well as I'm sure some of these others. Obviously, there's many European cities that you can lay over in. And
what about Australia? Have you been there?
I've not been to Australia or New Zealand. It's on my list.
It's on my list as well.
My bucket list is much longer than your bucket list.
But it's funny because I have so much. No,
you have a bigger bucket.
Right, more life. But that's hypothetical anyway. Like, I don't know if we said this before, but like, you could live to 100, right, or more, and I might not make it to 60 because some men don't. I have to take care of myself.
And if you keep eating those longhand,
those longhand are delicious. I've already got diabetes.
That's not true. Okay, and then so we've covered a little bit on the getting to, and we could talk a little bit more about travel and some of the other topics later. But you want to talk about the music scene, or where did you want to go next?
Do you need a drink? I didn't offer you a water.
No, I'm good.
Okay, can you pass me mine? I've just got it just there.
Sure.
Perfect.
So that was a subtle way of you saying you need a drink.
No, it was a double-edged sword.
It was
a double-pronged Hmm.
A double pronged knife.
Well, the music scene in Thailand is very good. There's a lot of jazz bars, and there's a lot of jazz bars I haven't played at yet. There's some that I've been to that are on my list to perform at, which is the Mellowship, Moment's Notice, and I have performed at Northgate in the Troubadour. Northgate is I've played there in the Jazz Jam on Tuesday nights, but I haven't played there with a band as like an act. So I would like to get a gig there, and yeah, that's there's probably another 2 or 3 that I can't think of the name of, but there's quite a few, and I've been to a lot of them, and they often have very good music on.
And talk a little bit about being a musician here, and are you accepted? Is it the musician community tight here? You know, what would you say? Describe some of your experiences in terms of.
I've been very easily accepted into a jazz band. I guess that comes from, without wanting to toot my own trumpet, if you'll pardon the pun, from being good on your instrument. If you're a good musician, you can find other good musicians to play with. That's kind of might be more specific to jazz, but maybe not. I guess it comes from like your personality too, if you're outgoing. So I benefit from being a good musician and also quite extroverted, which go hand in hand with meeting other musicians and forming these relationships. So, I mean, you do have to be a little bit careful. There's some things to consider in terms of the fact that I'm a white man, a foreigner, an Englishman. I'm an Englishman in New York, except I'm in Chiang Mai. I'm an alien. I'm an illegal alien.
And it is illegal to do a job that a Thai person could do here.
Right, but if I'm performing for free, no problem.
Okay.
So if it's part of something that you just want to do as a hobby, then it's not an issue. But you should be wary of where you're playing and whether you're getting paid for it, and whether you would be considered taking a job, like you said, from somebody who's Thai.
And I'm not 100% sure that even if you're not being paid, because you're not allowed to volunteer here unless you are with an agency and they have cleared it with the immigration department. So I'm not.
It's all very specific. I hate laws. They're the worst, aren't they? You wouldn't think they would get in the way of things like art and music.
I see.
Would they stop a poet from getting on a stage and reading his poetry? Where do you draw the line? Would they stop a band at a festival for playing for hundreds of people if they'd already booked it in advance and they weren't asking for any money and they were just, it comes as it bothers me a lot because we're talking about entertainment, and I feel like entertainment shouldn't be done for free by entertainers. But then at the same time, if you're talking about them not being able to do it even for free, well, then that's just a public service. So why would there be any laws involved in that? Anyway, maybe I'm just young and maybe I'm just naive about the world. But
well, it does raise the issue about the laws in Thailand around working, and presumably some people, a lot of people might want to come and live here and they might want to work. And so we've talked before about teacher jobs, and now we're talking about jobs that are.
And I don't know the specifics. So, I mean, again, with me having a work visa now,
yes.
How does that affect me being able to perform? If I did want to perform and get paid for it, but my work visa is for teaching at a school. But my work visa is also very flexible.
Is it?
In terms of they don't give me specific hours. I'm not scheduled to work a certain amount of hours. I'm not full time for sure. I'm definitely part time, and I can take the hours that they offer me or deny them if I don't want them. So that's why I paid 15,000 baht, which is about 400 or more USD. Maybe it's 500 USD, but it's 15,000 baht. How much is that in USD?
425 something. The rate is changing. I don't know.
ChatGPT Jeff over here.
I don't know the latest, but in that neighborhood.
I've paid 15,000 baht for that visa because it's flexible. But what frustrates me is that when I was in Laos getting the work visa, a new visa came up that's 10,000 baht for 5 years called the digital nomad visa, something like that, which one of my friends' wives just got.
We'll put that in the link.
Put that in the link. So I need to do a video for my Move to Thailand channel about the visas.
You have a Move to Thailand channel?
So I have a second YouTube channel, as well as Between the Keys, my music channel. I have Move to Thailand, which is about moving to Thailand, as you can imagine. And I've done one video already, which is about the prices of renting and the prices of buying property here versus the prices of renting and buying somewhere in the West, in England and then I'll do another one maybe for the American folk too. Lots to do, Jeff. Lots to do.
Well, that sounds like an exciting channel, and there's so much to consider when you're moving from abroad.
Yes.
So that is interesting. So back to the music scene. We're in a very touristy city. We're in Chiang Mai. There are many other cities. Obviously, Bangkok has an even bigger music scene. There isn't. I would say there's all kinds of music here. You're a jazz guy, so you're going to seek out jazz bars. There's a lot of blues. There is some rock and roll. There is some progressive stuff, and then there's of course Thai music, and Thai music ranges. So I think if you're the kind of person that likes to go out and see live music, certainly Chiang Mai, there's a lot of live music venues here. It's not everywhere. Maybe it is. I think if you go to a city like Pattaya or in Phuket, you're probably going to hear more cover stuff. But in Bangkok and Chiang Mai, you're probably more likely to hear original music.
I don't hear much original stuff in Chiang Mai, and I don't hear many rock bands. I mean, unless you go to a Hard Rock Cafe, but then you've gone there specifically hoping, and then it still might not be. It might be a jazz band on.
Yeah.
So there isn't.
Blues, yeah.
Whereas, so. And when I was in Laos, I went to Hard Rock Cafe, and they did have like a heavier band on, who were playing modern stuff, older stuff, Comfortably Numb, Pink Floyd, great cover. And then they did some Eagles, and they were fantastic. They had 3 singers, 3 guitarists. It was just huge. And so,
But mostly covers.
And I haven't seen enough original stuff, but maybe I'm spoiled for being English, and the music scene in England is so good.
Yeah. I would imagine, and in larger American cities, there's good. But I think that if someone were to come here and they did want to go out and see music, there's many places to do it. It's a little bit harder to sort out and to find. You would want to speak to a local. Let's talk about speaking to locals, because I feel like maybe it's because of the vibe in Chiang Mai, and there are a lot of tourists, and maybe this is true in a lot of places where there are lots of tourists, but it's probably not true in France. I think you can approach a person, especially a Westerner. It's pretty easy to tell who's a Westerner here versus a local. And I think people are probably more likely to want to share information about Chiang Mai and where you can go to have a good meal, or where you could go to hear good music.
Yeah, why is that? Is it because Thai people are so friendly, or is it because we're in a touristy place?
Well, I'm speaking about not just Thai people. Thai people are super friendly, especially in Chiang Mai. That it's known for the northern culture, the Lana culture, and people being friendly. But I'm even talking about the Westerners here, the expats, and to some extent even the tourists. I think just because of the atmosphere here and the culture, people are more willing to open up and maybe talk to someone, a stranger that they might not normally. I know when I see somebody with a map or looking at their phone, I will always offer to help them if they would like any information about whatever it might be.
Is that because of who you are, or because, would you have done that in America? Or is that because you're living in Chiang Mai?
I will do that in certain cities in America, obviously the ones that I'm more familiar with. But I think I've become more open-minded and more gregarious and more willing to help out. So I have a theory about Chiang Mai. There are places in the world, I don't think we've talked about this, but it doesn't matter. We'll call it a callback. There are certain places in the world that are sort of recognized as having this magnetism, this attraction. There's maybe Stonehenge-like places that have a sort of a mystical quality to them. There's Sedona, Arizona. I'm sure there's places in Australia. I'm sure there's places in Europe. But I think that one of the special things about Chiang Mai is that it draws artists, and it draws people that would be accepting of the particular culture. And my theory, Chiang Mai is based around a moat. It's based around the square, what we call the old city. The old town is a square. I believe it's I think it's 1 mile, but they didn't specifically set it up. So
they don't use miles here, do they?
No, but it's I think it's longer than a kilometer. So I think each leg of the moat, right?
What's that unit of measurement they use here? Kai.
A wah.
Wah.
A rye and a wah.
A rye.
But that's not length. That's
Just wanted to interject. Can you tell people what a rye is?
Sure. A rye, someone would think of units of measurement of land as an acre or a hectare. A rye is approximately a little bit more than a third of an acre. I don't know how much a hectare is compared to. And then you have that rye. So one rye is a large piece of land to have a house on. You don't need that much. And one rye is comprised of 400 square wah, and one wah, I think, is 4 square is 1.5. So it translates into meters.
I'm struggling to follow this, Jeff.
Yeah, well, imagine how our listeners are. So anyway, but back to the moat and back to my theory, and then we'll get on to another topic.
Okay.
My theory is that because we have this moat, on the inside of the moat, the traffic moves counterclockwise. On the outside of the moat, the traffic moves clockwise.
Right.
And so on each leg of the moat, of which there are 4, you have this, what I call the vortex.
Okay.
Around the moat. So you have clockwise and counterclockwise traffic. Think of it as like a tornado or a tornado inside of a hurricane.
Movie, so
yeah.
New Twisters movie. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Not bad.
So my theory is that this vortex of traffic, and it's probably always been like that. It was probably elephants and horse carts before it was cars and motorbikes, which will bring us to a topic about driving in Thailand. I think that vortex creates some sort of force, which has propelled Chiang Mai to be the kind of cultural hub that it is today. Artistic and cultural hub.
The force of the traffic moving in 2 different directions has created an entertainment scene. I don't really follow.
No, it's not that it's created an entertainment scene. It's that over the millennia, however long, Chiang Mai has been around for around 700 to 800 years.
Right.
In that time, the motions that are happening, the vortex that's being created by that traffic, I think is sort of creating a vacuum that's bringing people here.
Are you speaking metaphorically?
I not completely. I don't have the science to prove
What substances have you taken today, sir?
Mythbusters. No, that's just my theory.
License and registration.
Because I do think that when you step off the plane from Bangkok or wherever you've come from, a lot of people have told me that the instant that they arrive in Chiang Mai, they feel something. They feel a sense of relaxation or whatever it is. They sense that there's something unique about this place. That's all I'm saying.
So you're speaking from a spiritual standpoint.
Culturally, spiritually, I think there is even a physical manifestation.
Ooh,
yeah,
spooky.
Yeah, just my.
Well, I've definitely felt
theory.
A little bit of what you're saying in terms of definitely the people make a big difference. Like you just feel happier when you're around people who are happy. It's definitely a relaxed place to live. And yet, although it's a relaxed place to live, you would think that time would move slowly. But I actually feel like time has gone quite quickly since I got off the plane. Since I arrived here in November of 2022, knowing that I was moving here for at least, I thought a year, maybe 2, and it's coming up to 2 in November, I felt like time started to go faster. But maybe it's because I used to be working all the time. Is it that when you're working all the time seems to go slowly because you're always at work and you're bored and you make the coffee and then you do the tasks and you're like, oh. And then coming here, I've not had that 9 to 5. I've not had to get up and go to work. But because I'm having a good time all the time, like enjoying my life basically and not having to struggle and strive at a job. Because I used to be like that with jobs. Basically all the jobs I had in England for the last 9 years before I moved here made me pretty miserable. Is that normal? I don't have any of that.
I think it is fairly common. It obviously it depends on what kind of job you have. That if you work in a fast food restaurant, or if you're doing things that you weren't cut out to do, or that they're not your ultimate goal, then
it's because every job that I had was just to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's most of the population of the world, work jobs that they don't want to do.
I just saw a very interesting little short clip I'm stealing from somebody that I can't credit. And he talked about the difference between the classes, the upper class, the middle class, and the lower class. He says the lower class people work to pay their bills.
Yes.
The middle class people work to buy things, to get credit, to get credit to buy things that they can't afford to buy without credit. And the upper class, the rich, work to get money to make more money.
Yes. And that's where we're all trying to get to.
Yeah. So I think what you were saying is
money equals happiness over time squared, minus girlfriend plus time. Just a joke.
I like it. I like it. So
if I was married, would I be able to do this?
Well, I'm married and I can still smile for the camera.
I stole that joke.
I see. Yeah, I think we're going to steal.
We're going to steal. This is the part of the show where we steal things.
And don't credit them.
And we don't credit
appropriately.
Them. So there's an old guy. I was telling you about this old guy who's a comedian, and you told me about him, but I'd already seen him when you told me, and then now I'm telling you about it, even though you told me.
Confused.
And so was it me? You weren't the old guy.
No, I see.
There's an old guy who's in his 70s who's doing stand-up, who's very funny. I can't remember his name, but I want to find out.
We'll put it in the link.
We'll put it in the link. And he says things like, I'm old now, and I have a bus pass, and so I can be anywhere in 4 hours. And then he says, I can date anyone as long as they have a bus pass. A lot of bus pass related jokes. A lot of some guy was talking to me in a foreign language. I thought I was having a stroke. All of this kind of stuff. But I think it's very funny.
I like his joke about, so he's a stand-up comedian and he comes up to this stage and he immediately sits down and he says, the hard part of this used to be the comedy.
And now it's the stand-up.
And it's the standing up.
That's okay. So we've stolen 4 of his jokes.
Yeah. So we'll credit him, and he's probably got 3 million followers. And
he's making money.
And doesn't.
And how long does he have left? And funnily enough, that's one of your catchphrases. But I find it funny because you're only 64. 64. Looks great for 64. Jeff, ladies and gentlemen. And so I wonder why you say, how long do I have left? Because
it's a joke.
Yeah, I know it's a joke, but you're so healthy.
Well, I try to be. Of course, I'm a vegan. Have I mentioned that?
You're a vegan.
Have I told you?
Can we talk about your idea for vegan shirts and other T-shirts, soon to be available on jeff.com?
Well, I've been barraged by these mini reels on social media telling me how I should be making money by selling T-shirts or stealing things and printing it and all. Everybody should be making $10,000 a day because it's so easy. But no, we don't need to talk about my vegan T-shirts. But that'll be one.
But we'll link them in the later shows when we do a vegan episode.
But health, and I think we've talked about. I've mentioned before on the show that this is Chiang Mai and Thailand in general. Are fantastic for vegetarians and vegans. Although I should also warn vegetarians and vegans that while there are a million restaurants, and all Thai restaurants will be happy to make your food vegan and vegetarian if you can communicate that to them, there's also a tremendous amount of meat being barbecued everywhere. Oh. You can't go 10 feet in a food area without seeing open animals being barbecued, and that
doesn't really bother me because I'm not vegan. I don't eat loads and loads of meat anymore. I did lower my meat consumption, but I'm not vegan. Have tried veganism before, but what does bother me is when they put the spice on, right? They cook everything with chili. And you're driving a motorbike along the road and you don't see it coming. You're in your own little world, just thinking about the stocks that I'm looking at, or the ETFs, or I've got 12%, 14%, and then boom. Chili flakes right in your eye.
Oh.
And you're like...
Well, you shouldn't drive past this, but I've never had that happen.
You don't get the chili flakes in your eyes?
Sometimes you smell it, but I've never had the flakes in my eye.
I feel like that it irritates your eyes a lot. And then you crash into someone, but you say, look, it wasn't my fault. It was the chili flakes.
It was the chili. So this is a wonderful segue to my segment about driving in Thailand.
So that's what I was doing. I was planning ahead.
Oh, thank you for the setup. So you've flown here. You've arrived in Thailand. There are multiple ways to get around in Thailand, and we'll just talk about Chiang Mai. So You have private automobiles. You have red trucks, which are sort of like the bus, but not really the bus. And you pay 20 or 30 baht and you try to communicate how to get somewhere. And then most people travel by motorbikes. So as a car owner and car driver, it can be exceptionally challenging to drive here.
And I was looking at buying a used car.
And we're going to talk about that because electric vehicles are also very popular.
Right.
It's off the table. Well, just real quickly, I just want to talk about the experience of driving in Chiang Mai.
Yes.
So in the West, yes, there are motorcycles, but in Asia, there are motorbikes and scooters everywhere. I'm sure they comprise at least 50% of all vehicles. And you have to have a constant awareness of them because they come from the left, they come from the right, they come the wrong way down streets often, and they pull out without looking. But the other phenomenon...
I never pull out without looking.
That's what she said. The other phenomenon that has just really started in the last 5 or 6 years is that now we have food delivery motorbikes.
Those Grab drivers are the worst.
And yeah, so... These people are driving motorbikes, and by definition, they're in a hurry because they're trying to deliver that food. And they have relatively no idea where they're going. The only way they know where they're going is to look at their phone, right, which they do constantly, because I'm sure these drivers go to the same locations, but they don't seem to be able to remember where they've been. So they always are looking at their phone.
Yes.
And it's not just Grab. There's Tuk, there's Lineman,
There's
Food Panda, and there are probably 2 or 3 other food delivery services. So because it's so cheap to get food delivered here, and basically we've already covered the fact that even Thai people don't cook here, yes, as a rule. There is just food being delivered and coming at you. So driving can be quite a challenge. It's a bit like a video game.
It is. I love driving my motorbike.
It is. It's fun.
Sometimes I don't play video games because I feel like I've been playing one all day.
You've been driving around.
Yeah. Beep, beep.
Yeah. And so that's another aspect of everyday life here.
It's hectic. Yeah. If you don't drink 4 coffees a day, you will once you come to Chiang Mai.
But you'll be grateful. Yeah, because it's cheap.
You'll be happier.
And it's everywhere.
You can order it on Grab. Sometimes I do order a coffee if I'm that lazy. I sometimes am.
That is, especially because there is a good coffee shop literally across the street.
Yeah.
You would have to walk less than 200 meters there and back, and yet you still order.
But it's very fucking hot, Jeff. So why would I want to leave my little fridge freezer that I've managed to make myself?
It's like a man cave in here.
Yeah, well, like I am a man.
An ice cold.
Is it hot? Do you want to turn
it's wonderful. I said it's ice cold.
It's cold. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know if you were being sarcastic.
I was not.
Even Americans can do sarcasm sometimes.
I find I would like to think I'm very sarcastic. Less so as I get older.
You're extremely dry. You're like a dry martini.
I am dry. Speaking of dry, I just looked up the price of electricity around the world.
Yes.
I thought that this was kind of fascinating.
Well, I think Chiang Mai is probably in the top 5 cheapest destinations.
And electricity has something to do with it. So in terms of American cents per kilowatt hour.
Americans don't have any
cents.
It's a good joke.
That's a good one, yeah. And that's
free of charge.
That's damn.
That's not stolen.
That's all damn.
Completely free of charge. You can use that.
Not stolen. So this was in 2024, or sorry, maybe even 2023. The cost of electricity in Thailand is 11 US cents per kilowatt hour.
That sounds overpriced.
It's in the US, the average price is 18 cents. So that's a full, I would say, 40% cheaper. And in Europe,
I blame Kamala.
In Europe, it can approach 50, 60, 70 cents per kilowatt hour. So it can be 5-6 times the price of electricity in Thailand. Yeah. So not only is food and rent and motorbikes and gasoline is not cheaper, but electricity is cheaper.
I don't know whether to blame Shamala or Trump or Biden.
Just burn that AC 24/7 because you're not going to get cheaper electricity.
Yeah, it's very cheap to live, and we've covered that at length. Yes. We'll cover it again now.
I just covered it at an additional length.
Yes, that's what she said. So it's very, very cheap, and it means that you can live comfortably and happily. How long have we been recording? 39 minutes, Jeff.
Yes.
Did you want to cover anything else today?
We're going to talk about fruit
Oh, sugar.
Why don't you eat a longan, and I will talk about 3 or 4 fruits that maybe people aren't aware of. So when you come to Thailand, even if you're not a fruit person, you should try several fruits that you generally are not going to get in America or probably in Europe. This is a longan.
Would like one?
You might, no, I'm okay. Yeah, I'll have one. So there's a lychee. You might have heard of lychee before. They call it lynchy here because they often add consonants that we don't have in the word. So this is a I don't know. It's a peel and eat fruit. It has a large pit in the middle, so don't eat the pit.
It looks like an eyeball.
It does.
This
Luckily,
is the ASMR eating section.
Doesn't taste like a eyeball. It's similar maybe to a grape, except it's better. It's sweeter. There's no sourness to it.
You eat it differently to me. I just bite around the edge and then throw the pip in the bag.
Okay.
Because then you don't have to do that. Spit it out.
What? Is that bad to spit it out?
That's what she said. So there you go. That one's done.
Okay. Other
Very
fruits
good
that you must try. Sugar apple. I will put an image of a sugar apple into this video for those of you watching. It looks like a large green, light green pine cone. You break it open, amazing flesh, amazing flavor. You have rambutan. That's the hairy reddish fruit, which looks alien.
It does.
But it's very
All
good.
the fruits look really weird here.
They can look weird.
Duran. That famous band. No,
Durian. Of course, durian is famous because it's not allowed in hotels because it smells rather gaseous, but it has also very interesting. The flavor I think it resembles the most is a combination of cheese and onions,
which you wouldn't want in a fruit.
You wouldn't want in a fruit.
When God was working that day,
you would want on a pizza.
He hadn't had any coffee that day, and if there is a God, he just went, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to make something truly unique.
Yes. But yet it's sweet. Onions can be sweet and cheese can be sweet, so it's great on a pizza. I highly recommend the durian pizza.
Wow, I've never had that.
There's mangosteen, which you break it open, and I can't even describe mangosteen. So go to a fruit market. Markets are all over Thailand. They're all over Chiang Mai. When you come here, you can't walk around in a touristy city without seeing a market. But just ask some people about this fruit, or look it up in advance.
I don't eat enough fruit here, but I should eat more.
You should.
You've reminded me.
Okay. I've done my job. I've done my service. That's all.
I have been getting smoothies, though. There's a new smoothie bar that's opened up. They are 75 baht, so they're not cheap.
That's $2,
but they're
ridiculously expensive.
But they're big.
They're giant.
They have not much ice, so you get a lot of fruit. And they have they're all like avocado, which is obviously one of the most expensive fruits.
Yummy.
So they've all got like avocado and then berries, avocado, mango. Today I tried one.
Coconut milk.
Instead of avocado, I had the coconut. So yeah, I had coconut banana.
Yeah.
But I forgot to say my one.
Which means?
No sugar. So I really screwed it up.
My
girlfriend did say one noi, but I think as soon as you have banana, you really need to say
no sugar.
My one.
So this is important for coffee, and it's also important for drinks, because if you get coffee drinks, especially iced coffee drinks, they are going to load it up with sugar.
Load it up.
So learn the phrase "my one,"
my
no sugar,
one,
or "one nit noi."
Nit noi, little bit.
A little bit of sugar.
My pet. That isn't your pet that you have at home, your dog or your cat. My pet is no sugar.
Yes.
So my is no. Pet is
spicy.
What did I just say? No sugar. No, my pet, no spicy. Yes.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah. So that was that was our Thai lesson for today.
Yes.
All right. You want to play us out with something? That would be nice. Unless I think we've covered a lot of ground today. I feel like we
you didn't have anything else?
Earned our salary.
You didn't want any other topics today?
I'm good.
Okay. I wanted to mention that you like football. So Jeff likes football.
That is fascinating.
I know.
I can't wait to talk about.
But
football.
what blew my mind is I didn't realize just how much football a man could watch.
Yes.
And you watch a lot.
I will talk a little bit as an American who was raised on American football. I will talk about soccer. I will just again say the beauty of soccer is that the season never ends. There is always soccer being played year-round somewhere. And it's not just that, like in America, we have college and professional football.
Right.
But in the rest of the world, you have professional football, you have international football, and I'm speaking of soccer, and you have all these tournaments taking place every 4 years, and they're rotating. And even women's football, I shouldn't say even women's football is very good and,
You watch that
very
too?
watchable. Yeah.
So
in the Olympics,
who won the most recent? Who won the football in the Olympics?
The U.S. women won in the Olympics.
Amazing.
And the Spanish men, I believe, won. I should know.
And what about before the Olympics? It was the football.
It was the
Euros. And who won the Euros?
2024 championship. The Spanish men. That's why I can't remember. I'm pretty sure. I'm just going to say the Spanish men have won everything.
As you've aged, you've started to remember more things.
But yeah, perhaps. But I just want to put a plug in for why people like soccer around the world, and it's becoming more popular in America. But really, it's just the types of tournaments where, in some cases, Manchester City or Manchester United can be playing this little tiny village or a high school team because that tournament somehow they got into.
It's crazy to me that you love football, English football, you call it soccer, even more than I do. But then I've never been a big football fan. But
yes,
I didn't realize soccer was so big in America, but I guess it is.
Well, it's not as big because we have so many other sports, so many other professional and college sports.
Yeah.
So it's not as big. But a lot of my friends say, "Oh, it's boring because the score was 0-0, 0-0, or it was what I watched for 60 minutes and no one scored."
Yeah.
But that's because they're always it's about the score. So maybe if a soccer goal was worth 7 instead of 1, and the game ended 21-14, 3-2, people would say, "Oh, okay, now I get it." But anyway, it's more about the offense and the defense and the flow of the game. There's
you see the beauty
these
of
constant
the game.
Interruptions. You get to watch 45 minutes plus of just constant flow, and that's a different experience then. Because the average American football game, even though it takes 3 hours to play, has only like 8 minutes of action. A play lasts 7 seconds, and then it stops, and 30 seconds later, another play lasts for 7 seconds. And so the accumulation of time is only 8 or 9 minutes.
Wow, so there's so much downtime when nothing's happening.
That's right.
Is that why Americans get fat? Because they're just eating all the time?
They're just drinking beer and eating hot dogs.
Right.
And for 7 seconds, their heart is pumping, and then 30 seconds, they rest.
So here's the question. Do you still prefer American football or soccer?
I like them both, but given the choice, I would watch soccer.
What's your second favorite sport after soccer?
Probably American football.
And third place?
Basketball.
And fourth place is golf.
Yeah, that's right.
I knew it.
Wow.
+1 for me. And fifth place would be?
Boy, there's probably a sport
baseball.
But nope.
Don't like it?
No, I wouldn't watch baseball.
I feel like if I was an American kid, I would have collected baseball cards.
Oh, interesting. Did you collect any kind of cards? Did you? What a collectible?
No, but in England it was huge. The Pokemon card. Oh, sure, in America too, I'm sure. But Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh. I didn't really have any. My cousin though, Rob, he had tons of those things.
Pokemon cards.
Pokemon.
Right. And are they worth money now? Is his collection worth anything?
Nothing. But the theme tune's still worthwhile listening to. Pokemon.
Wow. Completely unplanned.
I can't actually remember it.
Is that the Pokemon theme song? Wow.
Capstan is my real. No. Capstan is my real. I can't remember it. Anyway, Pokemon. Gotta catch 'em all.
I think we've wrapped up episode 4.
Well, hang on. They don't know what my favorite sports are.
I'm sorry. Do you have any?
Badminton
and
tennis. It used to be the other way around, but now I don't play tennis anymore. But that's because it's so hot in this country. If I went back to England, or if I moved to America, or if I go to Australia, maybe I'll take up tennis again. But those countries can also be hot. Depends on the state.
You would be amazing because you're so tall.
I'm so
good
you're
at quick.
Yeah.
You probably could have been a professional tennis player.
I would have been had I just had the right set of shoes. Or maybe basketball.
Possibly.
I never tried it though. Basketball. I did try squash once as well. Here's just the two of us.
Because see how he worked that in? It's just the two of us. Wonderful.
I see the crystal
he's gonna
raindrops fall, and the beauty of it all is when the sun comes shining through to make those rainbows in my mind. When I think of you sometimes, and I want to spend some time with you. You've been watching Young Meets Old. Just the two of us.
I'm going to do the Trump white man dance.
We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. Just the two of us.
Beautiful.
And we'll see you next time on Young Meets Old. I hope you found this useful. I hope you found it
funny.
I hope you found it entertaining.
I hope you found it.
I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you liked it. Give it a like. Click. Can you click anything? What can you click? You could click share.
Okay.
Share it with your friends.
Share it.
And then we'll see you next time.